weather actually hit around 50 degrees out this week, and I absolutely love it. I love fall. My favorite holiday is Halloween, and I just love it. I love the leaves changing colors. I love the temperature change, and you know what? I love the fragrances that go along with fall. I got a question or a comment on a video requesting that I do some budget-friendly fall bangers, and I am more than happy to accommodate that. But I also put a couple in here just to be thorough. Not all of these are going to be budget pickups, and I will make sure that I clarify when I talk about that particular fragrance. But most of these, as you all know, I always shop budget-minded. Refuse to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for fragrance. It's so unnecessary. So, first off, what is a fall fragrance? Fall scents, winter scents. Well, you notice that a lot of the fall fragrances, winter fragrances, they are often yellow or gold. That does not necessarily indicate that every yellow fragrance or gold fragrance is a fall fragrance. I have one here, Versace's L'Homme. This is very spicy, very aromatic. Not a fall fragrance. It stings the nostrils, similar to Calvin Klein's Eternity, and a couple of those. I'll be honest, I don't really care for those too much. That's not my cup of tea. No, what I think of when I think of fall fragrance is a transition from summer and spring. You lose the aquatic notes, lose the blue notes, lose the salty notes, and what you're left with is just sort of complex undertones. They might be earthy, they might be woodsy. In any case, they're usually not sweet, and they're usually not floral. Also have an introduction of some booziness as well. So I'm going to go through about 15 of these fragrances and tell you why they are in my fall roundup and who should wear them and why I think you should pick them up because they're awesome. Let's begin. So, first off, I feel like it's only necessary to start with sort of intro to fall. So, when you get into the thick of fall, especially towards the winter time, it's going to be more of a colder climate, and these fragrances are more so what I think of as an introduction to fall, not necessarily full-blown winter. And the first fragrance that I have to show you all is Myself by Yves Saint Laurent. This is a Eau de Parfum. They have a new parfum that I have not tried. It's supposed to be vanilla and spice, and so it's supposed to actually build on what this is in order to give it more complexity and fall fragrances. I think it's really just their attempt to try to get more unisex usage out of it. This starts off with a beautiful fruity notes, a little bit of bergamot, and then it translates into something that's a little bit thicker, maybe a little bit of hint of a vanilla base note, and it's just really, really pleasant. It's something that will stay on your skin all day, and it's one of those you're gonna have to wash off fragrances. I could see this in colder climate. I really like this fragrance in those transitionary periods, those couple of weeks or those couple of months between summer and fall. I just think it's a great product, and it's expensive. So there are some clones of this, but I picked this up for $155 when it came out. It's probably lower. The cool thing about this is that almost every store has this, so you can go and sample it and make sure you like it or you don't like it. But I have very special memories with YSL Myself, and it was actually the fragrance that got me back into fragrances. It just sort of took me on a journey. So YSL Myself, not a budget pick, but a good one. The next one. This is why men, this particular one that I grabbed is the Intense Eau de Parfum. They have many different variations. Also, not a cheap fragrance. We're talking about Yves Saint Laurent. It doesn't really get cheap with Yves Saint Laurent. This is a beautiful, complex masterpiece. I think this is like Sauvage's complex fall winter fragrance cousin. I never saw this as a blues fragrance. I never saw this as something that you would wear in spring or summer. I always saw this 100% as that fragrance that you go to when you are getting ready for fall, or when you're getting ready for the colder months. I absolutely love why, man. It just empowers you, makes you feel good. Now, here is my budget alternative. This is Lattafa's Fakar, and I've featured this in a couple of videos. It is about 85% close, with a little bit more leaning towards soapiness, woodsiness in the bergamot opener. But this is $20, and I think it gets close enough to why men to not justify spending that much money for the original Why Men. So those are sort of my quintessential opening fragrance that I'm usually going to put in for a couple of months before it gets a little bit colder. I really like these. So, going chronologically, might as well stay chronological. There's two fragrances that I want to introduce. One in both budget fragrances. This first one is Halloween Man X. This just reminds me, first off, it's a 4-season fragrance, so you can wear it year round, but this one in particular, it reminds me of fall because it has a very strong tonka bean and coffee note. Whenever I think of, tonka beans and coffee, I usually think of, colder weather, which lends me to think that this would make a really good fall fragrance. Like I said, I use it year round, but, sometimes you wear a fragrance during the summer, the winter, the summer or the spring, and you might like it, but maybe it doesn't mix well with your sweat. It comes off just a little odd. I've always felt this way with this guy, and so I'm excited to try it in the winter. $30, Halloween Man X, in my opinion, the best of the Halloween line. But then you also have Halloween Man Mystery, and Mystery is one of those confuse the senses kind of fragrances. It's fruity off the bat, but you also have a lot of floral. It's sugary, but then it sits down into something that's a little bit more complex. It's kind of a question mark fragrance, a non-discernible fragrance that differentiates itself as being playful enough for the daytime to where it's not a date night or an evening perfume or cologne like Tuxedo or a lot of the other, the Trussardi Reflesso, La Nuit de l'Homme, name your favorite evening wear fragrance. But it's complex enough to warrant, I think, utilization in the fall and particularly the winter. It brings playfulness in a time when it's going to be dark and maybe dreary a little bit in the winter and the fall, and it's a really pleasant fragrance. Okay. I've got a couple here that I'm not proud of, but it'd be a disservice for me to leave them out. So this next one is for those individuals that prefer there's no other way to say it, prefer a 80s or 90s style fragrance with just tons of notes, tons of aromatics, and that is Halston's Z14. This is if I'm not mistaken, a 70s fragrance. Z14, you can buy this. This is an 8 ounce. And I bought this 8 ounce for like $24. What it is it's incredibly spicy, almost like a cinnamon stick. There's maybe some nutmeg in there, just a lot of spices, a lot of aromatics. When it calms down, it's incredibly sophisticated, incredibly complex. You either like it or you don't. With these 80s, 70s fragrances, you either like it or you don't. Acqua di Gio. Acqua di Gio is a perfect example of a fragrance that features over 25 notes. People love it. But you have fragrances like Bion. You have fragrances like Obsession. And people hate them. People don't like them at all. It's a era of simplicity. And you'll see a lot of these fragrances, they only list like 3 notes on them. In the 80s, in the 70s, and even somewhat the 90s. Lots and lots and lots of notes, spices, aromatics. And if you're into that, Halston C14 is a good pick. It's a good selection. Okay. This is the one that I'm really not happy about. But I have to put it in. I feel like I have to put it in anyways. And that is Club de Nuit Intense. If you can grab the Parfum, it's the best version by far, but any version is gonna smell good. If you like this makeup, and what is this makeup? This is Creed Aventus. This is 95% Creed Aventus, or even more, particularly with the Parfum edition. Why does this read fall to me? There's something about fragrances that are just super over the top, smoky and woodsy, that just remind me of fall fragrances. And it's really that easy. It's really that simple for me. When you first spray this, you're going to get hit in the face with smoke, and you're going to get hit in the face with, I don't want to say pineapple, because it does take a little bit more of a citrus than a pineapple, the original at Aventus being pineapple and smoke. But then it kind of settles down. Now, what I love is also what I hate about this fragrance, and that's its performance. Its performance is so good. So good. This and Myself by YSL are the best performing fragrances in this bunch. And they are what I call wash-off fragrances. You're going to have to wash them off. They're not going to wear off on their own. That's why I hate it. It's because people spray it. They change clothes the next day when they get up and get ready to go. They'll spray it again. And this is still in their clothes. They end up nauseating everybody around. But even the Parfum version was, $30 or $40. And you get a great product. And it's either a love or hate. I'm not going to lie. It is a love or a hate. You either love a Club de Nuit Intense because you love Aventus DNA, or you don't. But go out and try it, and you can go and grab the Eau de Toilette version, or the EDP, and spend, $30 on it, and it's not going to break the bank. And it's a very, very common one, though, and I'm trying to put a couple of these in you might not be so familiar with. So, let's go. My next one is a fragrance that, I'll be honest, I did not like this fragrance when I first got it, and it is Mont Blanc's Individuelle. If you were to get this particular fragrance, don't go on Amazon, go on the discounters. You could get Individuelle, $30-$40 tops. This is a very interesting fragrance. You kind of hit off the top with the bergamot and mint, I believe, is a secondary note, and then you have a vanilla and a sandalwood in the base. But there's something weird that happens when it dries down. It's complex enough, and when it dries down, it almost has like a chocolatey persona. And of course, if something is going to have a rich chocolatey persona, it's going to be labeled for me in the fall and the winter categories. Now, you can go too fall and too winter. You can just hit it with such booziness that it kind of turns people off. Mont Blanc's Individual is that fragrance for people who want to adapt, accept things and the changes in the fall and the winter, but also want to put in some playfulness. What I'm saying is there's people who love Individual, there's people who like Individual, but it's not a divisive scent, and you're probably not going to find anyone who hates it. It's a safe bet, it's a good buy, and it's probably, in my opinion, one of Mont Blanc's best features, considering the fact their Explorer is just a ripoff of Creed, and I think it's been done better. I think that's probably one of their best. So Mont Blanc Individual, that chocolatey dessertiness, it lends itself really well to fall and winter fragrances. So, okay, I have one more before we move on to like super heavy fall and winter fragrances, and that is Bion's Intense. Bion's Intense. Brioni, if you've seen any of my fashion videos or my suit videos, I love Brioni. The designer have probably between 12 and 15 Brioni suits. Everything that I can know, Brioni ties are probably my favorite. And this is the quintessential, oh, we need a fragrance. And this is their response. So, Brioni itself is so, oh my gosh, it's super niche. It's a super niche fragrance. You're not going to find anybody else wearing this probably. It is not itself a fall or winter fragrance. It doesn't necessarily remind you of a fall or winter fragrance, but it's complex and it's deep enough to where I think it lends itself well, particularly in those dreary days that you want a little bit of energy, you want a little bit of sweetness, and you want something to lift up your mood and your spirits and the people around you. A little bit more of a divisive scent, and that is because its opening is Italian tangerine. Unlike bergamot, the tangerine comes on so heavy. If you have smelled the opening note of Leighton by Parfums de Marly, that's probably the closest I can tell you that it gets. It's just very much in your face. It also has pink pepper in the opening. So combine Leighton with Bleu de Chanel, and you kind of have the opening of Brioni. But as it sits, it becomes complex, and it has a musky ambroxan in the base notes. Gosh, it's just good. And this is perfect if you're the kind of person that loves to rock, hoodies in the winter. Just spray this on your hoodie. Go on your business. No one's going to be wearing that other than me, perhaps. Bion Intense. I need to pick up a bigger bottle. Honestly, such a good fragrance. A little more expensive. Now we're talking with this one about $70 maybe. So a little bit more expensive. These next ones, all of them, with the exception of one, are super budget friendly as well. And a lot of these have been so far, but from here on out, they're pretty much taking the cake. Alright, next one. This is your Dunhill, and I believe this is called Custom. Dunhill Custom, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Custom at the top there. What you have in Dunhill Custom, you can probably tell just by looking at it, is a very spicy oak keg, essentially. When you first put a nose on it, it's not as boozy as you would think. You would think looking at something like this, it would be super, super boozy. It's really not. It's more spicy. You have spiciness mixed with the woodiness. My biggest complaint with this guy is that its performance is not great, but it makes up for it with the $14 price tag. It is that sort of regal, masculine fragrance. It is not unisex. It is a masculine fragrance that reminds you of climbing in an oak keg and an oak barrel and just covering yourself with various spices is what Dunhill Custom is. I really like it, and for $14, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. Okay, next one kind of bridges the gap between date night and fall, but I wanted to include it, and it is David Beckham's Intimately. I think David Beckham and Antonio Banderas are very underrated fragrances. So, other than being an unseemly and unwieldy bottle, it puts on a very sweet, I've never used this word to describe a fragrance before, but almost like a melodic quality to it. Like, if you could just put a nose to it, it just kind of reminds you of ballroom dancing, of sophistication, of the sweetness of the perfume mixing with the mystery of the underlying fragrance. It is not overly masculine like the Dunhills and the Dunhill Customs. It is your opportunity to sneak in something sweet in the middle of fall and winter. Not the greatest performer, but you can pick this up for like $10. And honestly, it's a pretty good deal. It's not my favorite fragrance, certainly here, but I wanted to show a little bit of love to David Beckham, and is it worth the $10? Absolutely. Alright, next, you know what we gotta do? We gotta talk about Angel Share. Angel Share by Killian. One of the only fragrances, in my opinion, that might be a little overhyped, but it performs to expectations as far as uniqueness, as far as quality of ingredients. However, it clinically underperforms when it comes time to the actual performance of it. Angel Share is one of those fragrances, 100%, that is a nighttime or a fall or a winter fragrance, and it is also like $200. It's not worth it, I'll be honest with you. There are some wonderful alternatives, and this is the first. Lattafa's Camera. Lattafa's Camera, the very, very first fragrance, actually, that I ever reviewed. If you want to go back, literally to... Actually, it's not true. Myself was the first one. This one was the first one I recorded, not released, but it was one of the very first fragrances that I ever reviewed. Back when I started reviewing fragrances in ASMR format, I would go through the boxing, the notes, the whole 9 yards. Now I do more compilations, but you know, maybe I'll do that in the future for old time's sake. Get a fragrance and really diagnose it to death. So, Camera shares a lot with Angel Share. It is boozy. It is vanilla base. It is sweet. It is spicy. Where Camera totally deviates is in its sweetness. Camera is so sweet. Some people might like this. I don't. It's not that I don't like it. It's that I prefer Angel Share's complexity and depth and booziness. Camera, I like it. If I were to smell Camera side by side with Angel Share, I would be able to pick out Angel Share. And Camera reminds me of kind of if Angel Share was mixed with a lady's perfume. You know, I think it lends itself to being much more feminine and in the unisex category. But if you like that, I mean, some people prefer that. Some people like like it better, especially if you're a woman or buying it for a woman. I think they would actually prefer Cardamom over Angel Share, but for those who don't, who want more of a complexity, more of a masculine take, yeah, I recommend ALT Amber Angel. This is designed to be a carbon copy. Oh my gosh. A carbon copy of Angel Share. And it's, you cannot, putting side by side next to each, you can't tell the difference. Is that freaking good? Alt Amber Angel Latava, I think, is around $30, and Amber Angel is probably around 30 or 40, depending on the size you want. But with Amber Angel, you're getting much more masculine and complex scent notes, and it just follows Angel Share that much better. This is literally, Angel Share is the perfect fall winter fragrance. Perfect. Or early spring, the cold weather months. Boozy, vanilla, warmth. Just, I can't recommend Angel Share enough. And if you have the money, go buy Angel Share, but I just object to paying that much money for a fragrance. So I go out, get some really good clones, and that's 2 of them right there. Speaking of clones, my next one that I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on because it is an incredibly divisive scent is Tobacco Vanille. This is the cologne Tobacco Touch. It's my favorite cologne. It is a wonderful mix of tobacco and vanilla, much heavier on the vanilla than it is on the tobacco, but it's rich, it's complex, and it has a spice profile in the base notes without being aromatic. Funny enough, it doesn't sting the nostrils. It's just deep, it's rich, it's complex. $20. It'll stay in your clothes all day. If you like vanilla at all, go try this. Forget about the tobacco in here. Go try it. People don't like the tobacco, and that's what makes it divisive. Okay. This next one is probably the best budget fall and winter fragrance. It's also disturbing how simplistic it is. It is probably the simplest fragrance I've ever seen and somehow manages to be incredible. And that is Cremo's Spice and Black Vanilla. 3 notes. Spice, black vanilla, and some sort of musk, like what is it called? I can't remember. Almost like some sort of a tree. I don't remember what it was, but there's 3 different notes, and the biggest note in the spice is the cardamom. So, right when you spray, dude, oh my gosh, sit down. This is, $10, $12. It's eau de toilette. The performance isn't the greatest. Never use this guy outside of winter or fall or the cold months. It is, something's really weird happens. But $10 to $12. It is a clone, if nothing. Probably the closest would be Victor Rolf's Spice Bomb or Spice Bomb Extreme. But that's too divisive, I think. And I've done blind testing with other people with Spice Bomb, and I have yet to have somebody pick Spice Bomb as something that wasn't literally in last place. So I don't like Spice Bomb, but I like this Cardamom Vanilla. It's so simple and it's so good. Alright, last one. This is not a cheap one, but I think it might be my favorite for fall. And it is, you recognize that? You recognize the bottle? Replica. And this is by the Fireplace. Oh my gosh, I can't say enough good things about this fragrance. I only get about 3 or 4 hours of performance. I guess that's probably the only negative, but when you spray by the Fireplace, literally having no idea what to expect, nothing. it stuns you. It zaps you. Like you just walked into a cattle prod. It's not at all what you expect. It's not smoky at all. What it is it's actually rich. It's warm. And it reminds you of s'mores for me. It reminds you of graham crackers and toasted marshmallows. That's what By the Fireplace is. And I love it. I wasn't even raised around, bonfires, making s'mores or anything. I guess I was, although we did have a fireplace. But I don't know. It's not even the nostalgia necessarily. It's so good. It smells so good, and it just screams fall. Now this is a little bit expensive. You can get it on sale for like $60 or $70. Sometimes it's, oftentimes it's more. If you have a Sephora is teamed up with Replica and Tom Ford's, so you can go to Sephora and try replicas, including this one and Tom Ford's. I have not been able to find a replica that I like as much as By the Fireplace. I think that Jazz Club comes close. I really like Jazz Club when it has its moments in the sun, for sure. And it's not a fall fragrance, so what would I suggest? Let's put these into categories. Going back to the individual who said, I want a budget, and I want a budget banger. I'm gonna give you that, and I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna give you let's go under 15. Under 15, it's a no-brainer for me, and that's Spice and Black Vanilla. It's incredible. It's amazing. It's unisex. Ladies love it. Wear it in the winter, and it's incredible, incredible, incredible. Let's go under 25. Under 25. I'm gonna have to hit you with either Camera, if you can get it for under 25, or I'm gonna have to hit you with Tobacco Touch. But sometimes you might not like it, especially if you don't like tobacco fragrances. So, Cremo and Camera. Let's just go with that. Let's say that you have a little bit more of a budget, and you can spend, let's just say $30 to $40 over everything else. I recommend Halloween's Man X. I don't drink coffee. I don't like coffee. But the scent profile is incredible. The tonka bean and the coffee in it. It's a perfect fragrance. A perfect fragrance. Okay, let's just say that you have, a much larger budget and you can spend something. I'm still gonna go with, even if you give me $1,000, By the Fireplace. So incredible. If you have, $70-$80 that you can spend on a fragrance, By the Fireplace, in my opinion, there's no equivalency. So those are my 4 picks. I think at each budget range: Cremo, Spice and Black Vanilla, Lattafa's Camera, Halloween Man X, and By the Fireplace by Replica. But all of these are incredible. If you see one and you hear one, I recommend all of these, not just those 4. So definitely check them out if your ears perked up when you heard me talking about it. So please keep the video requests coming. I see them all, I read them all, and I try to fulfill them all. So let me know what's in your fall lineup, and if you have any of these. And until next time, be well.